Morning, Glory, and evening, Grace America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Welcome to the weekend. What a busy news week it has been. I begin this Friday, as I do most, with John Ellis, the founder and executive editor of News Items, which I begin every day because I've got to read what's going on in the world overnight. John Ellis, welcome. I do not speak Federal Reserve very well, so I'd like to start with a question. What is it that Jerome Powell said in Jackson Hole that made the markets take off today?
Well, it wasn't what he said, it was what he signaled. What he signaled was that the Federal Reserve Board would be cutting interest rates in the near future. Interest rates reverberate all across the U.S. economy. Wall Street reacted rapturously. Markets were up. It was sort of a late summer gift to put everybody into a good mood going into the Labor Day weekend. The concern sort of looming out there on the horizon is something called stagflation. Stagflation is basically slower economic growth and higher inflation. And the reason people are concerned that stagflation may soon be upon us is basically because the tariffs, which range from 15% to 25%, depending on which good or service is being offered from overseas. And that concern, the cost of the tariffs will be passed on to consumers. Consumers will have less disposable income. The U.S. economy is 70% consumers. So higher prices, slower economic growth is the concern. Jay Powell could have done had a choice. He could stand pat. Things are pretty good. Unemployment is under control. Inflation is under control. Don't change horses in the middle of the stream. Or he could cut interest rates or signal that he's cutting interest rates because he's concerned that growth will not be as strong as it could be. He chose the latter. It's a risky choice, but that's what he's signaling to us.
Well, markets love it. The Dow almost up 2% at this hour, and NASDAQ getting there. I'll do a market report after the markets close. John Ellis, let's turn to John Bolton. I've already disclosed on Fox News. He's been a friendly guest on this program for 2 decades. I spent whole days with him. He's a Hawks hawk. I like to remind people he's a superb lawyer. He ran the civil division at Justice under Ronald Reagan. What do you make about this? Because the optics are so bad, if there isn't anything there, I can't imagine them taking it on. I mean, Kash Patel and Attorney General Bondi. That's just, if they haven't got the goods, they made a big mistake.
Oh, it's a huge mistake. You and I don't know quite yet what the quote indictment end quote is. So we're not able to comment on that. What we can say, I can certainly say this, is that I can't imagine under any circumstances that John Bolton would do anything that caused the national security of the United States of America to be in any sort of peril. He's an outstanding public servant. He's a terrific person. I was stunned when I heard the news.
There is only one trap door that I worry about, which is the Foreign Agents Registration Act, because everyone's got to make a living. The trouble is some lawyers think they don't have to register, John. And sometimes they don't have to register, but sometimes they do. Has that crossed your mind?
It didn't until you emailed me to that effect. But I also think that raiding someone's house of John's stature and so on and so forth would seem excessive. Let's put it that way.
Oh, the optics they've got to have the goods, or it's just maybe the worst political move by a major appointee of the president since his second term began. If they don't have the goods.
If they don't have the goods, it's a disgrace.
It is. I would agree with that. Let's go to where we hope there is instability, China. Xi Jinping, what is going on over there that has you on alert?
Well, there's a terrific columnist for the New York Times named Li Wan. She has been reporting on all things China for many years. She lives there and is really astute as to who's up and who's down. And You know, the portrait that is painted of Xi is sort of all-powerful, president for life, master of all he surveys. And in this column that she wrote, she points out that at least 45 officials in the People's Liberation Army and China's military-industrial complex have been removed since 2023. 10% of the Central Committee has been, for lack of a better word, disappeared. If he's so all-powerful, if he's such a master of all he looks over, why is he so insecure that he keeps firing people and disappearing people and indicting people and sullying their reputations? It points to something that another New York Times reporter, ex-New York Times reporter, a guy named David Barboza, who was the Shanghai bureau chief of the Times for 8 years. I talked to him, I think about 6 months ago, and I said, "What's up with Xi?" And he said, Xi has a lot of enemies. He is, in fact, all-powerful in one sense, but that could change, in a matter of days.
John, when you sent me the notes on what we're talking, I thought about Khrushchev and the fact that Khrushchev was all-powerful and then he wasn't. Then he was gone.
Right.
They didn't kill him.
Yeah.
He was just gone.
Right. I mean, it's unlikely. But I would urge your listeners to read Ms. Wan's commentary in the Times. She is, I think, the most perceptive on what's happening politically in China, and the portrait of Xi as all-powerful is, as she points out, suspect.
Let's close then with President Trump and the Democrats. President Trump's numbers by some polls are low at 40%, but he's very good compared to the Democrats. When Shane Goldmacher reports for the New York Times that they've lost 4.5 million voter registrations, that's got to alarm them. And then this morning, their fundraising numbers came out. They haven't got any money.
Yeah, no, it's the headline has been since the election, Dems in disarray, and these two, the Times article. But go back to the beginning. The surest indicator of how someone is going to vote is their party ID, right? So if you're a registered Democrat, you are in 90 to 95% of the cases going to vote for a Democrat. That's the number one predictor of how someone's going to vote. The fact that the Democrats are registering fewer voters in every state, not in certain states, in blue states, in red states, in battleground states, fewer voters than they have in the past. And as you point out, the Times puts the number at 4.5 million nationally, gives you a pretty clear picture of how in disarray they are. The fundraising is probably even worse. It's the worst of times for the Democrats, and there's no indication of how they're going to pull themselves out of this tailspin. The brand.
I have a proposition, John, I want to throw at you. I think Gavin Newsom is a pretty skilled political actor who's very smart, but his skill set was developed in deep blue San Francisco and almost as deep blue statewide California issues. Not sure he can play the political decathlon outside of California. What do you think?
I think the Democrats can't win with a candidate from either of the coasts. If they're going to win, they're going to need a candidate from the Midwest or from the South. He or she needs to be a moderate. They would be well advised to have a male candidate as their presidential nominee. But a California candidate, a New York candidate, I just don't think we'll have any chance.
Very interesting. On that note, John Ellis, thank you. News items, if you want to get smart every morning by 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. at the latest, subscribe to News Items.